and sunny day. Everything just feels so good today. You know what I'm saying? I just see a new light. You know what I'm saying? I can see the trees. I'm not blind anymore. Since I met you, Jesus Christ. See, there's a smile on my face that comes from within, from up above. I've been so alone. Yeah. I've been so let down. Some of my closest family and friends, they could not be found. Yeah. I called on them day and night, got no answer. They didn't help me out. But when I called on Jesus, his line was clear. Answer my call and wiped away every one of my tears. He held me in his strong, tender arms and loved me so ever, gentle and warm. Gave me his peace that comes from within. Loose my shackles and set me free from sin. Everything is so brand new. Yeah. Everything it feels just fine. Oh, fine. Since I met you, Jesus Christ, everything is so divine. Oh, got into some trouble, yeah, that I wasn't looking for. No, I called myself a lawyer. He looked at my chart and said, ain't nothing I can do for you. But then I called on attorney Jesus. He took my case and touched the judge's mind. See, my God, he worked out all of my time. The doctor in the sick room in jail, he will go your best. He healed the sick and raised the dead. 5,000 he fed with a little bit of fish and bread. He'll do for you what you will allow him to do. That's why I can say, yeah, everything is so brand new. Everything, it feels just fine. Since I met you, Jesus Christ, yeah, everything is so divine. Yeah, everything is so brand new. It's so brand new to me. Everything, it feels just fine. Everything, it feels just fine. Since I met you, Jesus. Since you became my Lord, everything is so divine. It's just so divine. Since I met you, Jesus. Since I met you, you picked me up. You turned me around. I just can't stop praising your name. Since I met you, you've been my friend. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. You are my Lord. You picked me up. You turned me around. You placed my feet on solid ground. I no longer worry. I no longer fret. 'Cause I know that you never failed me yet. I met you, Jesus. I met you, Jesus. I met you, Jesus. I met you, Jesus. You've been so good. You've been so good. You've been so good to me. You've been so good to me. Jesus Christ, since I met you, Jesus. I love you. Since I met you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. You are my Lord. You are my Savior. Since I met you. You know, it's such a bright and sunny day. Hello, everyone. Hello. You know,
Happy Sunday. We're gonna get right into it. Gonna get right into it. And everybody that comes back and look at it, because I didn't give a long notification. I just popped up here. It wasn't like I had it scheduled for a long time. So welcome back to the replay. But this is some vital information. Okay, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna be talking about these solar flares that's been happening. Since like the right even okay, they started around January, the real serious ones. But it's a lot been going on in December too. So it's been like a lot of shifts happening, and I'm just gonna talk about some stuff mixed in with the videos I'm gonna show you. But this is a man. He's talking about the fake rapture, which I was confirming this with my mom today. She was saying that she remembered me saying this years ago about how they're gonna try to do a fake rapture, and they're gonna tell you about how the timelines line up with Revelations. And also, I got this other guy. He gonna tell you about it's more ancient than that too, and how they do stuff in alignment. Because these are really shadow governments, deep state working in with the trying to act like they get control, but their system has crashed. So what they doing is trying to bring in the Luciferian their Luciferian government, where they ruling everything and controlling people and all this and that. And don't be in fear, because that's what they operate off of. They operate off of fear. So it's a great time, as I've always said, and I've said these prophecies back when I first started out on YouTube, and how it's time to go within and trust yourself, because it's only even a few people up here that's real on this YouTube thing. Whether you go into the church or you go into spirituality, whatever route you go, if you haven't if your goal is to balance and have pure intentions and balance, because you can't be everybody keep talking about high vibrations. You're gonna have to be somewhere in the middle, because you can't be too high vibrational or you'll fall. So you gotta face your dark side too, and that's what's going on now. A lot of our shadows are coming back into play, and if we are actually people that's prayer, what you call it in the church, prayer warriors, or if you are uh what you call it, star seeds, that's actually uh working with healing the star systems and healing the collective, you're gonna feel everybody dark side. You're gonna feel the demonic energies of everything, and not just yourself. You gotta deal with just your demons and lower vibration energy, then you'll deal with the collective. So I'm one of them people. That's why I don't be up here all the time, because I do a lot of uh, spiritual, stuff, and I be getting attacked. I could right now. Y'all want to donate? Y'all can send me a cash app, because I could really use it for my organization and honestly for myself, because I'm being attacked. It seems like when I do my stuff, that's normal. That's not unusual to be attacked and stuff, and it's just a part of the game. And I know it's spiritual, and I know and yet and still in that, I know I'm still protected, but I know a spiritual attack, and I know they know who I am, and they know where I be. And I hadn't tried. I'm not afraid, and I'm not hiding myself. But I know when I'm being attacked. But no weapon formed against me. It's not prospering. It's helping me to get in touch with myself and realize how powerful I really am, because it's all within. I'm learning not to be looking up here trusting everybody that tell me they come from God or they come from the spiritual consciousness. I'm looking within myself and examining myself, because I know people are still in the flesh, and I know we're still working on ourselves, and everybody. It's a continual process from here until infinity. So I don't put people on pedestals. I don't worship people. I've had some instances years ago where I was looking up to some people, and then I see that are human just like everybody else and capable of making mistakes. So I don't put people on pedestals. I don't care how much followers they have or how much money they have or how famous they are or how good they can orate or speak. I still look at them as like a spiritual being having a human experience, and you never know if people they may want to and have the intentions to actually walk it like they talk, but you never really know, when you up here, if people really putting what they saying into practice. So that's why I say go within, follow yourself, look at yourself as Christ consciousness as the hero. Because it's all within you. If nobody out here don't never tell you nothing, you're gonna figure it out anyway. You gotta trust yourself and your intuition. But we're gonna get right into it. All right. This is the man. He talked real fast, but I'm gonna try to play it as long as I can and pick up some jewels. I might fast forward it a little because he goes all off into a lot of different left fields, like I do too. But I picked up some of the stuff he was saying. Now, some of the people in the comments saying he might be exaggerating about some stuff, but I know he's telling the truth about that rapture thing and that healing part, the healing and the rapture. I can't confer with that. He on point about that. So I'm gonna share the screen and say the name of it is say they planning a fake rapture, and it's dismiss on. It's the Deep Believer. You can go over to her channel because I probably just roamed through a lot of it. But they say they planning a fake rapture. Um, okay. The Deep Believer channel.
Hi, everyone. This is Jennifer Bagnash, you a deep believer. Today,
And you're gonna see that I'm very diverse. I listen to a lot of different things. I don't, I know myself. I can chew the meat and spit out the bone. I'm not into religion because I feel like religion takes you from within yourself and takes you to an outside source. But whatever it takes for you to get to where you need to get at to go within. So it's some vital stuff in everything. Even in the religions, it's pieces of the puzzle. So I don't discriminate. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not. I have associates from different religions and stuff like that. I'm not one to be like you got to be doing what I'm doing, and if you don't agree with me, then I'm mad with you, or you got and right then when you're dealing with people that if you don't agree with them, they mad with you. That's a sign right there. That is a sign because you're not supposed to be a leader and you get angry with people. You get angry with people because they're not at the place that you're at to live like you live, or that they don't agree with you. So that when you see people in any form that tries to silence you, when somebody try to silence you, I don't care how much you worship them. I don't care how famous they are. I don't care if it's your family member, your mama, your daddy, your grandmama. If somebody tries to silence you and they don't want you to speak your piece, and because it don't agree with their mindset or train of thought, that is a clue that they're not walking it like they're talking it, and they're not where they need to be at. Because I'm telling you, it's been times in my life when I was not working on myself and I was in the material world, matrix deep. You know what I'm saying? I was deep in the matrix, like, not really spiritual. I was still spiritual a little bit, but I really won't spell more religious and material. If you didn't agree with me, I probably had a problem, but I've seen people even worse than me, in the past, where even in the church, where if you don't agree with them and friends, that they are having a fit if you don't agree with their opinion. Like if they dislike somebody, you supposed to dislike that person, and you don't even know what really went on behind closed. Like I'm like, I don't really, I don't know if I should take your word because you kind of iffy with things. Like maybe you started this, so I need to talk to them and get a clear view of what really happened before I actually jump on your lynching mob or whatever. Because I don't think that's fair to just hear one side of a story. But I'm telling you, it's people that was worse than I used to be, because I could kind of understand. Like I had a friend that was friends with a lady that actually was like liking my ex-husband, or they had messed around. I'm gonna keep it 100. The lady had messed with my ex-husband, but I always looked at it like this: it takes two. And I wasn't that level-headed. I wasn't a level-headed person either. I wasn't, because I was like a teenager when I got married. But I got tired, of trying to tell people what they should be doing. So I look at it as like, well, nobody's making anybody do anything. So I had a friend that was actually friends with a lady that had dealt with my ex-husband after the fact. The lady moved on and got married or whatever. And I was like, woo, I cannot wait to see this play out because, honey, you know what you put out come back to you. So I always knew that. Like, for some reason, I always knew, like, what I do, I got to sit there and wait on it because it's going to come back. So she was like, oh, she's getting married and she met this guy. And he said, I said to myself, mm-hmm. And she going to know exactly what it feel like. Just like I knew what it feel like. It ain't no way it worked like that. Just like I knew what it feel like for her to be thinking she could, play around with mine. She gonna know what that feel like, and I ain't gonna hold my breath. And just a show. I'm just saying. I'm just keeping it 100. But I didn't have nothing to say about my friend too much being cool with the lady because I'm like I can't control this woman. But most people would have been like, oh, if that's my friend, and they better not be friends. I got people that do me like that. Now some of these same friends, if the shoe was on the other foot, and it's happened where I decided to befriend somebody that they baby daddy and they won't even marry. I'm the only one in the group that was married besides about one other one. If they baby daddy messed around with some girl, I'm not even supposed to say hi on Facebook. And I have people that's followers of my books and stuff like that. Like I have people that's fans of my stuff. I done been on, I'm just like, oh, so I had to come out with. I'm like, oh, so the same rules don't apply, huh? So if you expect me to be like that, why am I not important for you to do me the same way? I'm just saying, people expect stuff out of you that they're not willing to give. And like I told one friend, I'm gonna give you the same energy that you gave me. Cause I seen the time you be linked up with people that I don't have real problems with me. So if you want me to treat you a certain way, you have to treat me the same way. Hey, I just got tired. But you got to be careful though. Getting back to the subject, I'm gonna play this. When you see people when you don't agree with them, they got a problem with it, and they supposed to be leading and spiritual or in church, whatever it is. If the Muslim religion, the conscious community, if they talking about Big Mama, all that, if they got a problem with you not agreeing with them, they ain't there yet. That's all I got to say. So, but yeah, I might have to fast forward.
You are going to be thrilled because we're having someone on who is touching on end times. Now, he says that he have come to realize by revelation of the Lord of the timeline that we're in. And he even had
Girl,
almost a similar dream that he had given me this year on
ain't it
January
great?
1st about what's going to happen this
Yeah.
year. You're going to want to stick around for this. It gets deep. Dr. Timothy Thrapp, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure and honor to be here, sis. Thank you for having me on.
And Timothy, I know that you wanted to say a prayer before we started. So would you mind praying for the audience
Yes,
right now before we
just a
start?
short prayer. The main, I want to tell the audience, the main thing is to get everybody together in love and unity and the Spirit of God. And the Spirit of God is what's most important. And it helps people to understand and receive. And in this case, because we're talking about a little different view of things, it's important to be able to throw away doctrine that's not of God. If it doesn't line up with the Bible, we need to throw it away. So we're going to pray a little bit. Holy Spirit, we're going to pray to the Heavenly Father, and we pray that the Holy Spirit comes and moves every person.
Now I don't agree with everything this man says, y'all, and I'm gonna fast forward this because, like I said, he do like I do a little bit. But I bring mine on back in a little faster now because I done got used to being on this platform. But yeah, I don't agree with all this. Like I said, I'm listening to some of the stuff, but yeah, he making sense. Oh, let's gonna get into it.
Will help you. And I was in big trouble. I was about 7 years old, and I prayed to God, and God did a miracle. And I told him when I prayed, I was praying, Lord, get me out of this mess. I could get killed. This is terrible. And and he and I said, and I then I as I prayed that, I knew I said, if you're real, I didn't know God was real. Nobody I knew believed in God. Everybody lived such a sinful life, except that one lady. And she had planted that seed maybe 2 years earlier, and so she must have been a Christian, And anyway, so when I prayed, I thought, well, if I'm asking God to do this huge favor for me, I got to tell him I'm willing to do something for him, And well, what does he want? And it came in my spirit at that time. I didn't understand. The spirit just came to my mind or whatever, that he wanted people to serve him, work for him. I said, okay, I'll work for you the rest of my life. If you do this miracle for me, I'll work for you. And he did. It was a miracle right away. And so I've been serving him ever since. And now I was definitely diminished mentally capacity. And the reason was, when I was about 3 years old, one of my first jobs was melting lead. Lead, you melt it very high temperatures, and the fumes that come off of there, and nobody told me don't breathe that stuff. And you should be wearing a mask. You should be wearing. And so I was pouring lead into the forums for months and months, and breathing lead and damages the brain. And a lot of people know this nowadays. In those days, I don't know if anybody knew it. And so I was mentally retarded. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, nothing. And when the Lord did that miracle for me, and I failed first grade and so on. And then after he did that miracle, well, then I had to start serving him, and I didn't know how to do that, but nobody I knew anything about it. And so all of them would laugh at you if you talk to them about it. And so eventually I realized I found some books. That's what it was. Someone was throwing out some books, and they had pictures of Revelation and some scriptures in there. And I started just going through those books. And anyway, the Lord started increasing my mentality. I realized that God wanted servants that are deep believers, that are pushing into the Word of God and studying and intelligent and capable. And there's a scripture that came to me early on, and the Lord whispered this in my heart, and eventually I found it in the Bible, and it's I believe it's 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 15 or 16, maybe 17. It says that the man of God may be found to be fully competent and completely equipped for every good work. Now, there's different translations, but that's basically what it's saying. And I noticed that most people were incompetent or barely competent, and yet the man of God is supposed to be fully competent. And I thought, well, that's a pretty important. So I better start studying. I better start applying myself. Better start learning. And as I applied myself, the Lord amplified my mentality. And within a couple of years, I was the smartest. I went from the dumbest kid in the classes in school to the smartest kid in the classes in school in just a couple of years. And when I was a teenager, I kept pressing in around the year. When I was 13 or 14, I was praying for it and seeking it, the wisdom of Solomon, because if he gave it to Solomon, he should give it to me. God's no respecter of persons. If we do what Solomon did, we will receive the gifts Solomon give, God. It's that simple. And some people say, well, why doesn't God, do this and do that? And he did it to Peter, he did it to Paul, he did it to Solomon. Well, a lot of them didn't do what Solomon did to get it. In other words, we got to press in, we got to be determined. And even Wigglesworth, he had some incredible Smith Wigglesworth. He had some incredible miracles. And when I first read about Smith Wigglesworth, actually it wasn't the first time. The first time I read that book, I thought it was all bogus and baloney. It was impossible, because I was of the mindset for many years that the power of God wasn't for today. And so when I read about Smith Wigglesworth, and I didn't even think talking in tongues was, because the first church I went to, anyway, so I pressed in. But around 14 years old, somewhere in there, the Lord gave me a huge increase in my mentality where I could literally, I knew everything in every book without studying. But before that, I read 20, 30 books a day. I'm not kidding you, 20 or 30 complete big books a day. Every day, almost maybe 5 days a week or something like this. But at some point, I'm pressing in and asking God. He gave me a word of knowledge, word of wisdom, word of understanding. He gave me all that, all three at once. And I knew everything in every book. And I was tested on this. I could call up somebody 100 miles away. They could go get a book off their bookshelf, and I could tell them the name of the book, and I could tell them the author, and I'd never seen that book before in my life, and they could open it up to any page, and I could start reading it for them. I'm 100 miles away. I'm not saying, but the Lord would just tell me, and so I didn't have to study for any tests anymore. I aced everything, and I got advanced into college right away and all this stuff. So God is good. God can do, and I don't want to be bragging on myself. I'm not bragging on me. I'm bragging on God. The Lord blessed me, So, God is able, and now I have multiple advanced degrees. naturopathic healing health is one of them. And some people call it naturopathic medicine, which food is our medicine. Really, if we eat properly, you can fix almost anything. But then there's also supernatural as well. So my first churches plural that I went to, they didn't believe in the power of God. So it took a while for me to accept it mentally, although I kept seeing miracles all the time. And I would say, well, and I'd talk to the elders about it, whatever, and they'd say, oh, that's the devil following you around. That's the devil doing that. I remember one time I was out ministering all day long in the hot sun as a teenager, and this is when I had the power of God and the wisdom, word of knowledge, word of understanding. And I walk into a store. I didn't have a watch, at that time. I think I was still pretty poor at that time. But and Lord blessed me financially around 15, so I must have been maybe just before that, around 15 or 16. I started getting blessed financially tremendously. Anyway, I walk in, so I didn't have a watch. I was very poor. I didn't have a watch. So I walk in, the clock, I was pretty sure it wasn't. I looked at it, and the Lord said, "That's not right." And I said to the guy, "That clock's not right, or that clock's messed up." I might have said messed up. And when I said that, I pointed at it, and when I said that, both hands went straight down, and he was seeing it. He was looking at it, and I was looking at it. Both hands went straight down. And the clock fell right off the wall. That's the power of God. And I did, and he's looking at me like, like, get out of here, the devil, and I'm like thinking, yeah, the devil's following me around again, and but I didn't realize it. I had cursed that clock. I said that clock is not right. That clock is messed up, and it was seriously messed up. Not only did both hands drop to the six, but the whole thing fell right off the wall. And that's the power of God. God is able to do anything, and I didn't understand the power of God at that point in my life. And mostly it was because of brainwashing. In other words, I had the word of knowledge, so I should have been able to understand it. I had the word of knowledge, wisdom, understand. I should have been able to understand all that. But because I was so brainwashed to think, oh, it's impossible, the devil's following you around doing these things, and I'd see people fall in the spirit. I see people get healed miraculously, and I had to be the devil, And eventually, I was dying of cancer when I was 30 years old. No, 30, 20, 29 years old. I was living in Anchorage, Alaska. I'm from Alaska, that's my background. And I was dying of cancer, suffering horribly. And literally a growth came up in my throat. And there was a lot of people getting cancer. It was, they called it oxygenated gas. It was right after the Gulf War, and they had a whole bunch of this fuel that was highly, highly toxic, and they were putting it in the automobiles. And everybody in Anchorage doesn't have much wind in the winter, so a lot of people in Anchorage were getting cancer. And I had this big growth come up in my voice box, and it was choking me to death. And I sought the Lord, and I sought Him for healing, and but I didn't really know if He would heal. In other words, all these miracles, is the devil. The devil's healing people. And I'm like, well, it doesn't quite make sense. So maybe the God will heal me. Maybe He will. So I was seeking Him with all my heart. I was literally, probably 2 or 3 weeks suffering. I actually went to the medical doctors at that time at the hospital, one of the big hospitals there, and they checked me out and said, yeah, you need chemo right away, you need radiation right away, we need to operate and remove your voice box. And he said you'll probably be blind and deaf and a few other things, and I was thinking, it's just better to die, and I'm thinking, I think I got to get out of this place. This is crazy, and at that time I'd already had some basic nutritional stuff, and I was trying everything I could think of to do, and nobody knew the cause was the oxygenated gas. Later, they decided that the oxygenated gas was, causing cancer, and of course they quit using it. But so-called oxygenated gas, it smelled terrible. It was nasty stuff. It wasn't oxygen. It was, like toxic chemicals. But so. But anyway, so I went. I asked them. I said, I said, well, let me think about this, and let me go home and think about this. And they were like, well, normally you couldn't even leave, but they said we got the whole. It was a 10-story building, and I think it was the sixth floor was cancer patients. They said we got the whole sixth floor completely full of cancer patients, and the floor above that completely full of cancer patients, and the floor below that completely full of cancer patients. So I guess because we're full, we'll let you go home. In other words, it was like they weren't going to let me go home. They're going to take me against my will, and don't let me die in peace, And then I was thinking as I was leaving, I said to the doctor, why is there so many people getting cancer? He's, oh, it's just a run on cancer. It's the greatest thing ever for him. He's just making lots of money. And I'm like, what in the world is, there's something not right in this planet. Something not right in this city or whatever. So I went home and I'm fighting for every breath. And they gave me some antibiotics or something I was taking. They did nothing. I couldn't hardly swallow. I couldn't hardly breathe. I couldn't hardly eat anything. Nothing. And I went home and I was seeing the Lord, and literally I was dying. I choked to death of cancer mostly, and I tried. I couldn't even swallow anything. It was getting where every breath was like that. Every breath was a struggle and lots of pain in my throat, and it was swollen up about the size of my fist, maybe a little smaller, size of a peach or apple or something like that. And it was literally choking me to death. And I wasn't going back to that hospital, that's for sure. They're going to remove my voice box. I'll never talk again. And then they said I'd be blind and deaf too because of radiation or chemo or whatever. I'm not going back there. They don't know what they're doing. It's better to die in peace. But I was seeking the Lord and I was reading the Bible and I kept, praying and I said, Lord, this is up to you, and finally I was new. I hadn't been able to sleep, in like a week maybe. Um, and I knew that, this is my last breath, basically. In other words, if, I was literally right there. And I said, Lord, it's up to you. I'm just and I couldn't speak it. I was just thinking this in my head, praying in my head. It's up to you. The Lord knows our thoughts, and so I set the Bible on my chest. And when I did, the whole room filled up with this beautiful, beautiful pink cloud. It was pink. A lot of people say it's white like a cloud, and I've seen it white like a cloud. But that time it was beautiful, beautiful pink. And and uh and that's pretty amazing to me. A beautiful, beautiful pink cloud. And I don't know what the symbolic meaning of pink is, but anyway, this beautiful cloud coming in. There was a presence of God, and it was a shiny cloud. It was like there was lights coming through everywhere. It was just beautiful, and you couldn't even see the ceiling or the. I was laying in a bed, because I was so sick and dying. And he spoke out of the cloud, and he said, "I'm here for you." And I thought, well, he's here to heal me, and in other words, he can heal, it's like, I was pretty sure he could heal if he wanted to, and because, God is good, God, it's in the Bible, and so that's was a big turning point. So anyway, I passed out and woke up the next day and I was totally healed. And when he said, I'm here to heal you, I mean, he didn't say heal you. He said, I'm here for you. And when he said that, I knew or I believed that he was there to heal me. And now you could have easily, if you're a negative thinker, you could have easily said, well, he's here to take you to heaven, and die and go to heaven. You could easily interpret it that way, but I didn't interpret it that way. I interpreted he's there to heal me, and because I was praying for healing, and so I passed out and woke up about 12 hours later on the nose, and so I hadn't slept, like a week or something, 2 weeks or whatever, and I was that growth in this throat. And one night went from almost the size of your fist down to about the size of the thumbnail. And I just thought the whole thing was a bad dream or something if it hadn't been still there. And that, but I felt great. I felt better than I had. I got up and cleaned up, and everything was a mess. I was a mess. Everything was a mess. I cleaned up and started. I made myself something to eat, I think. And then I went to the grocery store to get some food because I was out of food, or I don't know what it was. But anyway, I remember going shopping. And then I come back and just praising the Lord and just thanking the Lord. And I said, well, God does heal. So I've got to find a church that really believes in healing, because, all the churches I went to at that time all believe miracles. It's called cessationalism. That miracles ceased with the apostles, or with some people believe they laid hands on people in that one generation, basically the apostles, and then the next generation. They got the power of God. And you see, some people say it's just the apostles. Other people say it's just the first group. But no, God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so that was my big, huge healing lesson. And I was about 30 years old when I realized, but I'd had miracles all through there. But I always thought, people would say, oh, it's the devil. And I was always like, well, maybe, I guess, but you got healed. Well, the devil heals somebody sometimes, I was like, what? so, so, yeah. So, and they still teach that. And a lot of them do. A lot of different denominations. It depends on where you go, to church. So it's good to find a good church that believes in the power of God, the reality of God for today. And so after I realized I was wrong, I really pressed into that subject and I studied everything. And that was the second time I read Brother Wigglesworth's stuff. The first time I read it, I thought, yeah, it's just wacky, that is not for today. That was out with the apostles, so it's made up. That didn't really happen to him. And then I really studied every single book of Brother Wigglesworth, John G. Lake. Actually, the Lord miraculously led me to John G. Lake. And yeah, in other words, his books. I was This is like maybe a week after I got healed, maybe 2 weeks. I was seeking the Lord. I want to understand this healing thing, and I started getting sick with other things. It wasn't the cancer. The cancer went away in 24 hours. The cancer was completely gone. So it had shrunk down to the end of my thumb, and then 24 hours completely gone. And so I started seeking God for understanding how healing works, because I was getting other health problems and other serious health problems. And it might have been 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, I asked the Lord. I said, I'm going down to the Christian bookstore today. And I said, if there's anything in there I should read, and I'm pretty sure I read half the stuff in there, but but anyway, I said, if there's anything in there I should read, I'm praying you show me. And when I walk in the door, it's like an angel man. I didn't see him, but I felt the presence of somebody beside me, and he led me right over to a certain, back in this, go down this aisle, down here, and the second book from the left on the bottom, that was it. And I looked it up, and I said, Adventures in God, John G. Lake. And I thought, that's a corny name for a book, Adventures in God, And I said, well, God wants me to read this. I knew it was I knew it somebody was leading me over there, the Holy Spirit or God or angel or somebody. Somebody led me that book, there's no doubt about it. And I said, well, I'll read it. God wants me to read it, so I'll read it. And I did, and that was a big, huge turning point. I read everything by John G. Lake. I read everything by Smith Wigglesworth. Eventually, I found Kenneth E. Hagin. He's teaching the same thing they are. It's just he does a really good job, and it's free on YouTube.
So he talking about how he got healed, and I like how he talk about healing. So I'm gonna fast forward this song for him to talk about, because he just talk about the rapture, and I gotta go to another one. Okay.
We believe that Messiah, that's the main difference, and they don't in general. Again, there's exceptions. There are rabbis that do believe Jesus is Messiah, and so on. So and probably people call themselves Christians that don't believe Jesus is Messiah too. There's probably people like that too, but because there's all kinds of flavors nowadays. But we love them, we pray for them. So anyway, so that's the second witness, and then there's other scriptures that refer to 10-day period, 10-year period, whatever. And I don't have them all ready right now, but I wanted to cover those two mainly and let people realize.
Yeah, this the part right here. He gonna talk about how we in the tribulation according to 2020 started it or something like that. 2017, how 2017 started the tribulation, what Revelation talks about. This is the part I want to get to too, because he was talking about the healing part, which was really good. Talking about how you can heal yourself, which I agree with that. That's really true. And how he went in the hospital and they had him all screwed up and everything, and saying he didn't have long to live because of the stuff he was breathing in. He was breathing in iron or something, metal, steel. He was breathing in steel, gasoline, way back, because he looked like he maybe like 60 or something like that. They didn't know it was damaging to the lungs, but he's about to talk about a timeline of how the Revelation talks about the is he? I don't know if he's gonna talk about the Trojan horse, but I know this other guy is that this other person is but he's gonna talk about the timeline of the tribulation and how it lines up with Revelation, but Revelations is even coming from a more ancient text. It's coming from even a more ancient text.
Realize that the 10-year idea is very long established, and Jesus said it in Revelation. If you look, it's words in red. It's Revelation chapter 2, verse 10, that you will have tribulation 10 days. But I'm not saying there is no 7 year.
He's saying 10 days, and they saying it's really a year. So he's saying it started off in 2017, and it's gonna be like 10 years with it. After that, the same. He telling the Christians they got to be here for the tribulation period too. But we already we in the 7 year or something already. It's done started like years ago, and like he said, he gonna say throughout the whole tribulation, you're not going through stuff all the time, but it's normally happening around March, because this in 2020 the pandemic happened around March, the outbreak happened around March, even the Kobe Bryant thing, and even the something else happened in 2023, the forum, The world, all the leaders came together and stuff. It's smart, and we about to enter March soon, so this is another reason why I'm coming up here. It's like to give people some heads up. If it ain't but three people that this is meant to land upon, that's who is meant to hear it.
10-year period. There is a 7-year period inside that 10-year period. And that started around 2020 or 2021, depending on what you want to look at there. And then actually, I'd say there's two overlapping 7-year periods in that. And one started in 2020, and the other started in 2021. All of them around Rosh Hashanah in most cases. Yeah.
So what happened in 2017 though? Because I remember you mentioning, and everyone was looking out 2017 because we thought that this is it. Because
It is.
look up at the
It is.
sky.
Everybody suspected that would be the rapture date. Yeah, a lot of people. I'd say a lot of people, because Revelation 12. So yeah, when you have a 10 years, let me go back just a little bit. When you have a 10 years, you have to figure, well, where am I going to count this 10 years from? You need some kind of starting date. If you're concerned about where the end is, at the very end, where do you start? If God's given us a 10-year countdown, which He is, then where do you start that countdown? And so Revelation 12 is the only date in the whole New Testament for our time. I'd say the whole Bible for our time. It's the only date given in the whole Bible for our time, the entire Bible. And the Bible calls it great signs, two great, one sign, one great sign, and then another sign. And so you could call them both great signs, in my opinion. I think that's actually fits the text better, the translation better. The two great signs, both of them come out to 2017. One of them's the woman with the stars in a certain way in her crown, and it's a virgin in the sky. It's everybody studies that, knows is talking about that, and they can find the date. That is a date. It was Rosh Hashanah. She's pregnant 9 months before, just like a woman giving birth, and she was given birth, pregnant with planet Jupiter. She gave birth exactly at Rosh Hashanah. That kicked off the 10-year countdown, is what that did. And everybody thought, well, with pre-trib rapture, we got to get raptured. Well, we didn't get raptured. So obviously it didn't change God. Everybody thinks, well, maybe God changed His mind. Maybe that's just a mystery we can never figure out. No, God put that in there. It is the tribulation period starting then, but it's a 10-year tribulation, not a 7-year tribulation countdown. You can say a countdown if you want. And so we've gone right now about 6 years and some months. And so we're about to get, if the Great Tribulation is the last part, the last 3.5 years of that 10-year period. And that last 3.5, and it could be 2.5 years. It might only be two. If it's 2.5 years, then we've got another year of relative, tribulation rather than Great Tribulation. Let's say it that way. Everybody can look around and they can see that things aren't right in this world. It looks pretty questionable. And a lot of people say, yeah, 2020, I saw it starting. And the Lord told me many years ago, I'd say the year 2000, He took me out of my body and talked to me for 3.5 hours in like a cloud here. It's like one of these clouds. And He was telling me all kinds of stuff. And He showed me stuff too. He had like a big screen there. He'd show me stuff. It's just like wave His hand and like a curtain would go back, or clouds would move or something. And there was this big screen. Anyway, so one of the things He said, I had a lot of stuff to say, but I can't, obviously we'd go over in time. But one of the things He said is, in the year that you call 2020, in the United States, you will see the beginning of the tribulation period. Okay, He didn't say it starts in there. He said that's when you see it in the United States. So the Lord said, you will see the tribulation starting in the United States, because I lived in the United States at that time. But He also told me that United States and Europe are going to get nuked. I don't remember if it's the same vision. I've had multiple visions where the Lord takes you out of your body. People think vision is only when you close your eyes and you see a screen. There's each one of them. When you close your eyes, you see like a screen, or you see a whole field of view, and you see something going on. God will talk, Jesus talk, angel talk, whatever. But they'll show you things like on a chalkboard, or numbers and floating in the air, or whatever. With your eyes closed, you open your eyes, you see normal, and you close, you see that vision. That's the lowest type of vision. That's vision number one. Number two is out of body experience, near death experience. When you go physically out of your body, I always know when I'm going out of my body. It's quite dramatic, especially the first time. You're like, oh no, my body's gonna be dead. I'm not in it. It's literally, that's the second type of vision, and He'll take you and show you stuff. But the third type is where people say, no, Jesus was actually in the room. I'm telling you, Jesus physically showed up. I saw him pull up the chair. I heard him walking across the steps. I saw him sit down. He would talk to me for an hour. That is an open vision. If there's a whole bunch of people there with you, probably only one or two will see it. Not all of them. Usually open visions, not everybody sees it. Usually one or two or three will see it. If there's a bunch of people, if it's just you, yeah, well then you can't tell the difference. This is very hard to tell the difference between an open vision and reality, and that's where people get confused. And they'll say something like it wasn't a vision, and then they'll talk about getting pulled out of their body or they die or whatever. Yeah, and we have these different terminology, but again, it's important that people understand there's three types of visions. And of course there's a dream also, and people get that confused with visions. There's dreams from God. Yeah, they're different than regular dreams for sure, and it's different. And but that's not a vision, or sometimes you call it visions in the night. That maybe that's what there's a phrase like that in the book of Daniel. So maybe that was a dream, yeah, or dreams. But again, that's not the three types. So you could say there's four types if you count the dream as the fourth. But anyway, so the Lord told me that in 2020 we would see the tribulation period in the United States. And what did we see? We saw lockdowns. We saw some of those words we're not supposed to say. and so anybody knows that's watching what we saw. And of course that's not great trib. That's trib. And yet from the countdown it started before that. And this is borne out in Daniel chapter 12. There's three numbers given, and I'm a mathematician. One of my degrees is in I taught math in college for a while, Central School of Science and Technology, Anchorage, Alaska. I taught for about a year and a half. I was substitute, for a year, and then I taught for a year, and they wanted me to stay on, but I didn't agree with all the brainwashing that's going on in there. So that's why we got the unprogrammed to help people get unprogrammed. That's our program. Yours is Deep Believer, and I think that's a great name. I really like it. Then you come to 2020, right? And what happened in 2020? It comes about March 2020, actually. So what happened in March 2020? Well, some of those things we're not supposed to say, but I think we can say the word lockdowns. And the Bible says he said what would happen then is the freedoms would be taken away. From the time the freedoms are taken away on 1,290 days, so we're going forward again, 1,290 days. It says then the disgusting thing that causes desolation will be obvious or worldwide or noticed or whatever. It'll be there. It'll be there. And so what happened? You go forward again. 1,290 days, you come to 2023, right around the middle of September. And what happened in 2023, right around the middle of September? Do you know?
Oh, that was last year.
Yeah.
Oh.
About 5 months ago. 6 months ago.
I don't remember. Refresh it.
Okay, what happened is all the leaders, not all, but a bunch of leaders.
In Europe. Yeah, all the leaders came together to form.
Yeah. That's right. And there was announcements made, and not only that meeting, but there were announcements made worldwide that we are already in World War III. We are already in World War III. Even the United States. Yeah, these were announcements in the middle of, because I was looking for this, because the Lord had already revealed this to me. And so I said something big regarding the disgusting thing that causes desolation, something big is going to, and I thought, well, probably World War III is going to break out, is what I thought. No, what it was is announced. But sort of it is breaking out because the first wave invasion is all these illegals coming into the United States and Europe as well. That's the first wave invasion. When you do an invasion, you do it in waves usually. War, the game of war, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you're right. It's never at once. It's never just an impact. It's like a trickle.
That's right. So they're trying to weaken the whole system so it's easier to collapse. And if they do it right, it'll collapse by itself. And that's really kind of what they're working for and working toward. The dark side is working toward that. Anyway, so that's the 1,290 days. So the disgusting thing was announced or admitted that we're already in it. Let's say it that way. It was made known by leaders of major governments. The United States, it was the head of the CIA that announced it, and there was a few others. And in different countries, different people, high-level people announced it, that we're already in World War III. And that was 5 or 6 months ago. And most of this probably didn't make the regular news. But the point is, I was looking for it, and a few others were, and maybe a few thousand others, or 10,000, maybe hundreds of thousands. Others were looking, and we all saw it. And I knew it would be something, but I didn't know exactly what. And then you count 1,335 days later, and it says there's a blessing for God's people at that point. It says, "Blessed is he who makes it to the 1,300." Who makes it, who survives, who endures, or 1,300. That word could be translated different ways. 1,335 days. So obviously, there's going to be great tribulation in there. There's going to be tribulation. It's going to be challenging to make it to this 1,335 days. But there's a blessing there. There's a 2,300-day prophecy also in the book of Daniel. So he says from the time the daily is taken away, which we already figured out that the daily is the lockdowns. And a lot of people agree, and not just me. Now that it's in now hindsight's 2020. So the body of Christ, even the flaky prophets, which we love them, but even the flaky prophets can see it now. They didn't see it very well in advance, but they saw it in hindsight. Hindsight's much, even me, hindsight's much clearer. What it is, what what the Bible's talking about. So yeah, so from the time the daily's taken away, which was around middle of March of 2020, then 2,300 days later, it's a different prophecy. 2,300 days later, the sanctuary shall be cleansed, is what it says, and that comes up to the end of June 2026, and so this is right in the middle of the Great Tribulation. So I'm thinking, wow, so we're going to get some kind of something from God, and I don't believe that's a literal. People think, well, Israel's got to rebuild the temple, and that's the sanctuary over there. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to ever get that temple rebuilt. And there's one brother who found all those scriptures with the 1 year the wrath of God, and he decided that means the whole tribulation is going to get shrunk down to 1 year. A lot of people think that means the temple is going to be rebuilt, but because it talks about the sanctuary and the temple in the last days. But if you think about it, the Bible says that our bodies are the temple of the Holy Ghost, and so if
That's what I
our
was going to
body,
ask you. Yeah. So do you think it would be in our bodies as opposed to a physical temple?
yeah. So
Okay.
I think, and I could be wrong on this, and I'm hopeful I could be wrong on this, but I think.
Yeah, and this is the download I got too a while back about how our body is going to be rejuvenated. That's what's going to be rejuvenated, and the lifespan is going to expand. Well, people not going to be done 100 years. Ain't going to be nothing to live. It's going to be defeated. As far as the death at 100 years, people gonna get a longer lifespans. Because if you look through my old YouTube streams and stuff, I be saying like I was at a family member funeral a few years ago, maybe like what 2021 or something like that, during the lockdowns and stuff, and I was just listening at the preacher preach, and how he was talking about how those people live for thousands of years, and I got a hit like it's gonna happen again. After a while, it's gonna be where you not gonna be hear about a lot of these diseases that people are having, and a lot of these diseases are coming from the poisoning of the water, the food, and the stress, and the air, and the things that has been done in the matrix to go against nature has destroyed our avatars, and has also destroyed, tried. It ain't gonna, they're not, mama, daughter Earth ain't gonna let them completely, but it has destroyed the earth, tried to destroy it, caused a lot of wound into the earth as and us too, and we are reflections of the earth. So it's gonna be where people gonna start living longer.
Think the sanctuary being cleansed is our body being healed and rejuvenated. In other words, Great Tribulation is going to be a lot of health problems. In other words, people are starving, people are, whatever, disease, everything. They're releasing new plagues, all this. And so some Christians will be suffering because they don't understand the power of God. And I'd say most of them will be suffering because they don't understand the power of God. But when God delivered the Israelites out of Egypt, there's scripture that says there was not a feeble person among all their tribes. And that word feeble means even a minor ailment. There was no ailments among all their tribes. So let's say somebody's missing both their feet from an accident or whatever. God healed that. They could walk. God put their feet back on them. Grew them back. God healed every single thing. There was nobody that was lame. It was not one person. There was nobody. And so I believe this picture, so just like Jesus told me, he said everything in the Bible, you're going to see it again, or almost everything. You're going to see it again here in these end times. I believe there's a healing coming before the rapture, before the new bodies. And maybe it's a year and about 3 months in advance, if I'm correct on that. Again, it's just prediction or speculation. It's not prophecy, but the numbers I gave you are from the Bible, so I'd say that's prophecy. In other words, we're going to see We are in the tribulation period. We have been for about 6 years, 6.5, whatever. And we're about to see the great tribulation. If it's a 3.5 year great tribulation, we'll see it starting in April, around the 8th of April, which is where the eclipse is. And I think they're going to do the fake rapture then. And because a lot of people are still thinking we're not yet in the tribulation, but when the great tribulation happens, almost everybody's going to think, yeah, we're in the tribulation. So, but,
Well, you
but
know what? You said something interesting though. You told me that you described how they will make a fake rapture. Could you describe that? Because that was interesting.
So with this technology that I saw with my own eyes, they can literally make anything they want appear in the sky, and they've got thousands. I think it's close to 10,000 satellites that they admit to, and not count all they don't admit to. So maybe there's 20,000 satellites up there. And so all of these have the ability to project three-dimensional images. They use combination of satellites to get a three-dimensional image. But this is what they're up to. The fake rapture will be projected into the sky, and they will have, beams of energy coming down during that time, and people will look like they got taken up, but really they got evaporated. And some people will say, no, he wasn't taken up. I saw him get burned up. His shoes are still there, and his feet ran him, or something like this. So you'll see that, and it'll confuse a lot of Christians, and a lot of Christians will think, oh, I just didn't make it. Jesus came and I wasn't good enough. And, and they'll be beating themselves up, and, oh, I might as well take the mark, or I might as well kill myself, or, they get depressed. And one of the things of war, because we are right in the middle of World War III right now, or right in the beginning of World War III. One of the things in war is to get the enemy discouraged. Actually, that's one of the tactics. And so I suspect we're going to see a lot of these fake things with the design to get people discouraged. And you may have even seen that in your dream. You saw the guy across the street, and you went over to help him, and then all of a sudden everything changed, and you got the impression a lot of it was fake. Yeah. Did
Yeah, I
you
was
see the guy
told.
being?
Yeah,
Did you
no,
see
I
the
was
guy?
told. I was told because I saw him.
Yeah.
Well, we saw him because there was no one there before. Then we saw him, and he hurt his ankle and like a crack or something. So he was in pain on the ground. We went to walk over. I looked down, and when I looked back up, all of a sudden there was a huge scene. There was ambulance, there was paramedics, there were people all around. I said,
Yeah.
"What in the world?" I just looked down, and then on my left shoulder, somebody touched my shoulder and said, "It's because it's not real."
Yeah. Now, did the guy seem, when you saw him with a hurt ankle, did he seem like he was sad? Yeah, I
I didn't see
definitely.
his face, which is weird
Oh, okay.
because yeah, we were across the street. And I just saw him in pain, so I didn't get a chance. I know who it was. I mean,
He he
in the
he
dream.
represents. He
Mhm.
represents dream interpretation. He represents the people you're helping. Your ministry is helping. He
Mm.
represents those people collectively, and so the body of Christ, when these big disasters happen, or real disasters, whatever you want to call them, these great deceptions. That's what Jesus called them. So be biblically correct. We'll call them great deceptions, to designed to even deceive, even if possible, even the elect. So when these happen, there's people you're ministering to now, and some of the same people that will be discouraged or depressed, and you're there to help them. In other words, to encourage them, lift them up, and help them realize that a lot of the stuff is fake. That's in other words, God is good, and He's going to help us through this, and He's with us, and so on. So yeah, that's. I'm pretty good at dream interpretation, so I'm always happy to help if I can interpret something for people. But I believe that's what it represents.
I just focused on the fact that I was told that this is not real. None of it is
Yeah.
real. Yeah,
Yeah. So, and that's what happened with Miami. All of a sudden, you said all of a sudden there's ambulances and everything, police cars or whatever.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what Miami. One guy said they seen, or maybe a few guys called up and they seen an alien. Normal, they would just laugh. 911 operator laugh at him and say, "Hey, if you keep calling here, you're going to get arrested. And
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
give us." Instead, every cop car in Miami shows up.
Yes.
So
Okay. So I wanted to ask you about that because, they were like, at first they said, the news said that it was, police called to the mall because there was a fight. But if you saw the aerial view of how many police cars were at that mall and down the street, I'm like, you would think this was like some like major catastrophe. I mean, it had to have been like what, 100 police cars,
right.
if that.
So this was planned ahead of time. If something came
Yes.
on the radio and said, "Oh, somebody saw an alien," or "There's a fight in the mall," it wouldn't send everybody there. It might send
Yeah.
2 or 3 cars at the most.
Exactly.
And plus the way they did it with their sirens and all this, lots of attention. And then they went around the interview and everybody, "Did you get any photos? Let me see your phone. I'm gonna delete this." The
Oh,
fact that
is
they
that
did,
what happened? Because nobody had
yeah.
pictures.
Yeah,
So what
they were
happened? They deleted
deleting
it?
people's pictures. They were asking lots of people, "Did you get any pictures? Did you get any pictures? Let me see your phone." The cops, I'm gonna delete this. And that a lot of people testified that they deleted their pictures that they had. So again, it was most likely a Project Bluebeam because they
Yeah.
don't have to do that in the sky. They can do that right here in the ground too.
Mm,
They can do it in the mall. In other words,
mm,
with
mm,
projectors, they have them
mm,
set up different places. And the fact that it was glitching in and out makes me think all the more it's similar to when they turned it off, the cloud
yeah.
just instantly disappeared. So the clouds themselves were faked, and as well as the demons and angels were faked. And it
Mhm.
was not a real demon and angel. So that's what's going to fool people. They're going to see something spectacular like that, and they're going to think it's really Jesus coming back, and so on and so forth. And it's not. In other words, there's 4 ways to know. One is to witness in your spirit. In other words, you'll know it when Jesus comes back. There's going to be no doubt whatsoever in your spirit that you're in the presence of God. There's going to be a huge witness in your spirit when Jesus shows up. And
I like what he said though. Even though I'm not into religion, he said you're gonna know within, meaning in your intuition, in your spirit, you're gonna know what time it is with all that stuff. You're gonna know what time it is with everything. You even if you walk whatever you may be at level you may be at, you might not be at you may be at the level where you in church, or you may be at a level where you just becoming a believer in anything, in nature or in God or whatever, or believing in yourself. If you got the right intentions and you working on healing yourself, and you working on not trying to be perfect, but you working on balance and facing your demons, your shadow self, that side are ashamed and that you don't push down, either maybe from different past lives and stuff like that. You gotta cry it out and you gotta feel it, not running away from it. You centering in on the eye of the storm, facing yourself and working on yourself. You're gonna be all right. Don't be afraid. Don't give up. Don't think that you ain't prepared. You might not have the finances and stuff, but a lot of people that's front ain't even got the finances to buy bunkers and go underground, and you can't run and you can't hide. We just gonna have to change our mindset about each other and realize that we are all here having a human experience, and we might need each other. We're gonna need each other. We're gonna have to learn to be my brother's keeper and barter. We're gonna have to get back. Look, mm, y'all, we gonna have to get back. Y'all know the money about to crash, but you don't gotta be in fear. Cause look, a lot of us ain't rich any damn way, and a lot of them people that's on TV ain't either. We see the truth coming to the light, how they ain't getting paid nothing. Even with Kanye, he didn't have that $1 billion in his hand. Those were deals. He said he had a struggle and they had to move over to Spain, him and his new wife. So y'all, that money was an illusion anyway. We're gonna have to get back to we not gonna be look, it's not bad because this stuff won't real anyway. It was just stuff against nature. We gotta start working out and strengthening our legs and stuff because if your car is over a certain year, it ain't gotta be no 2020 4. But if your car is like over 2005, they can remotely control your car. I heard allegedly. So if you ain't, wanting to be controlled by them, you might not be able to drive your car. So shit, you know what I'm saying? Like we gonna be all right, y'all. We gonna be all right. We just cannot. They get strengthened off of fear. We gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying? We just have to think differently and reset and reboot our mindsets. I'm gonna play this here. This gonna help you. This gonna help you too. But yeah, if you want to go on over to this show is called Deep Believer. You can finish the rest of this. You can finish, but that's all we're gonna look at of that, and we're gonna go into my other lady. I love her. This sister here, she she remind me of me, my sister from an spiritual, but I can relate to some stuff she said. She telling the people they don't gotta go through what she been through. She try to make it so you don't have to go through the hard stuff she been through. But here we go. Yes, here we are. We probably Present. This is all food for the mind, body, and soul. Y'all will thank me for this later. Share screen. Gonna talk about these solar flares. And
overwhelming, especially when you have a busy schedule and limited free time. This is why I recommend Smart City Apartments.
She is on TikTok. She's on TikTok. She's on Instagram. She do a lot of stuff on Instagram. So you can find her on all those stations. It's Earth 1111, Earth 1111. Now she deep. Like I said, I'm very diverse.
Welcome back to Earth 1111. We just had a huge collapse of the underworld. Now this happened because we had such an influx of solar energy last week. I don't know if you guys are feeling that everything is changing and there's no going back. Such a timeline jump. So how are you guys feeling out there? Comment below, because it was, let's just call it horrible as we were going through it. I'm feeling a lot lighter now. Things are getting so much better. But let me tell you about what happens and why it's a collapse of the underworld. When we have these huge influxes of plasma energy, it's like draining the swamp. It is actually, so as the energy comes in, more of the distortion fields in the quantum grid, these are the phantom pockets, are being flushed out. Now this happens on an individual level as well as a collective. So let me tell you about some things in this video about what you're probably experiencing, because I know a lot of people, right, we have in our minds, okay, it's kind of a hijacking of the spiritual community where a lot of people believe that if you feel anything bad, that you have, if you have this bad emotion come up or something, right, you start seeing shadow figures, then you're doing something wrong. So many people have this mentality, this belief that you have to stay in this lovey-dovey vibe all the time. Otherwise, you are feeding the darkness. And that is a complete hijacking of spiritual concepts. Because to get to the core of oneself, the authentic self, to come through in this world, right? For us to purify the false matrix, clear the evil on the planet, we have to clear the shadow and integrate that shadow and the false ego self on an individual level. So a lot of people are waiting around for external white hats, galactics, aliens to do right the same though. And that is actually the biggest hijacking of all. It's the mentality that we are this small and that there's got to be something out there that's doing the work. So we sit here and we live the same life, the same lifestyle, same habits, same routines, right? We don't even want to look at any of this shadow because, oh, well, if we put our attention on what's happening, for example, in the world, all the horrible things, then people believe you're feeding that energy, and that is completely false. So what happens when we get this huge plasma wave? We can call this the Great Solar Flash. Now, if you're watching my videos for quite much this 8 different times about the Great Solar Flash, is never going to be one flash. It's a series of massive energy coming through the portal of the sun. So the sun is a stargate. And so when we get these huge ejections of plasma, solar flares, and we had 3 X-class solar flares last week. So one was almost an X-class, but let's just say 3 of the strongest types of solar flares possible in 1 week. Now, that's because we are moving into solar maximum. We are having solar flares constantly, daily at this point. There are some years, so you go back about 5 or 6 years, there was some years where we didn't have a single X-class solar flare whole year. And we really only had the very minor flares, and they weren't every day. They were maybe every couple weeks, every couple months. So that is the difference in the energy. Now so what's happening is we are receiving, so our sun is receiving massive cosmic energy from behind the sun. The sun is a portal, a stargate, and what happens is when higher cosmic energy from the higher creation, so you have to realize everything is an organic creation. It has structure. It's not just random. And so our sun is connected to greater suns, stars, and we are receiving massive ejections or injections of light, let's just say from source. So this is helping with our ascension. So I know there's a lot of fear going on out there. You can see it everywhere. From the science community, for example, talking about that we are heading for the massive ice age, for pole shift. We are heading for extinction levels on the planet. And yeah, if you're looking at it from that point of view, from the point of view of normal everyday science, you're going to be in fear because we are having so much energy coming in and our false magnetic field of the planet. So that has actually been a frequency net that is artificially created because of many different things. I'm not going to go on to it in this video. But what it has been is blocking. It's been a frequency net blocking our life force energy that comes through these series of stargates. This is the dimensional fields, and that's how we receive literal our light body into the physical body. So we are connected on many different levels. We're not just plopped here and God somewhere else, floating on a cloud somewhere. We are a consciousness stream that has to move through multiple different levels to step down into denser and denser fields of consciousness, like physicality, where we are right now. The problem is we've been in a hijacked system for millions of years. And I've talked about this many different times. I'm going to go into more detail about this process. I do talk about this more in my course Ascension Magic, so check it out if you guys are going through the ringer, because I talk about hundreds of different topics. I'm going to be talking about specifically different times in the past where we had a major hijacking of our consciousness. One dark era being Atlantis. Now, so get it, guys, it was a false field, like a veil preventing us from receiving our soul and oversoul and all our other higher levels of the God self into this physical plane. So when you hear science talking about, oh my God, our magnetic field is collapsing, we're heading into Armageddon, that is what it means. It's actually a false field, a false net that's collapsing. So just always be aware that there is many different levels deeper than what we hear through science and through the mainstream. Okay, now the reason why as well during this whole solar flare activity going on last week, it started actually on the new moon on February 9th, which was last Friday. We had a massive X-class solar flare. Now that same day, the new moon, so the sun and the moon were directly opposite the asteroid Atlantis. Now, you probably heard about Atlantis. I'll be going into it in a full video coming up next because I want to get into some of the I have to go deep and it's going to be dark. And so I have to talk about a lot of things and how it's coming up to the surface in this life, in this time right now. Every single past era, past timeline is getting brought to this now moment so we can clear through that karma. And Atlantis was literally one of the nastiest, darkest eras of this entire planet. So this was a past civilization where horrible things happened. And we're seeing it mirrored right now in our life right now, in the world. The craziness is not random. Now, that is really the start of this X-class solar flare that happened on this new moon. So it's directly across from the asteroid Atlantis, which we can say kind of harnesses a lot of the unhealed collective unconscious of the era, which was Atlantis, which was very dark, very sinister. And this is why it started out with, so think about what happened last weekend for you. So this is on the 9th. The 10th, we had another X-class solar flare about 12 hours later. That was also the beginning of the Chinese New Year, of the Dragon Year. Now, I'm talking about that more in a video coming up as well, because I want to talk about more how this year is a year of the black sheep of the world. So this is going to be crazy. Now I wanted to actually post that video last month, but I've been offline. I know I disappear sometimes because I'm doing so much in the field, in the stargates. When we have these massive injections of plasma, of light, it's like you are having a huge amount of energy and it's hitting the grids of the planet. But the problem is the grids are so blocked. We have so many distortions. So think of the grids as like your nervous system or the ley lines of the planet. So we have specific, ways that energy moves, circuits through our planet. Now it's all connected. Your own energy systems are connected to the grids of the planet and all the stargates and all the axial lines and ley lines and sacred sites. Now that's also connected on a larger macrocosm to the planet, or so all the planets, let's say, of the solar system. This is our solar grid system. Now that is one of the biggest hijacked systems of distortion fields. So the sun, for example, the sun has a Merkaba field. So essentially the sun is a Merkaba, a stargate. It's not just a ball of fire. If you haven't already seen my video, it was actually from the winter solstice. On that video, you have to watch that because I talk about how the sun is actually a series of white hole and dark hole Merkaba fields. It's a portal. We think of it as just this fireball, but it's actually a series of drawing in energy and expanding out energy. It's literally a portal. And so our sun is, let's say, orbiting or spinning with the north and south pole, let's say, of the sun. Every planet in our solar system should also be completely in its orbit, right? In its various orbits, but all of the planets should be lined up with the north and south pole the exact way in alignment with our sun. The problem is we live in such a fallen, hijacked, artificial matrix that every single level of creation in our entire Milky Way galaxy, especially where we are in our solar system, has been completely artificially hijacked. And this is why we live in an inverted system. I think I talked about this many times on various videos. Check them out if you're new to my channel. And if you're liking the video so far, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel because we're talking about a lot more. And if you're new, I better introduce myself quickly. I'm Roxanne. I've been ascending really since I was born, but I had my massive Kundalini activation in 2007, where everything started blowing up in my life. I had no idea what was going on. And ever since then, I've been moving through the process of extremes so I can make sure that to help you guys to not go to the extremes that I had to go through. You don't have to suffer on this journey as much as I did. So this is why I try to post a lot of very deep concepts so you guys can understand. So again, I hope I earned a thumbs up, and also share the video with everyone as well. Can really help some people out right now that are lost in all the confusion. Okay, so the planets that are orbiting around our sun, we have some planets that have exploded. We have some that are completely on false orbits, things like Nibiru, which you might have heard of, Planet X, and the ones that we know of, right? The Mercuries, the Venuses, the Mars, Saturn. These planets are actually, some are upside down, some are orbiting sideways, some are literally spinning in reverse. Earth, for example, is completely upside down compared to our solar body, our sun. And it's on a tilt, a 23-degree tilt, which is, again, artificial. This creates the precession of the equinoxes. This is why the zodiac doesn't line up with where the stars are. So everything in our time cycle has been hijacked, which is why people are so corrupted. Their consciousness is so distorted, and we have crazies out there in the world. And it all comes down to all of these grids are distorted. All the stargates are blocked. We have energy flying everywhere instead of, okay, ascension shouldn't be this hard. Ascension should be a time where stargates open up, we receive God source energy into the body. Yes, it requires a little bit integration, but it should be a time of celebration, a time where we are embodying more of our consciousness, not a time of pure friggin' hell, which a lot of you have been experiencing massive ascension symptoms. That's because when we receive these massive plasma waves via, like I said, the solar flares we've been having, the energy is like having, let's say, a fire hose pointing at full blast at a pile of boulders, and energy is just spewing out everywhere. The grids are so blocked, and some are spinning in reverse. Some are hijacked into, let's just say, places for fallen beings to siphon that energy off. All of this has been created artificially. It's not random why we live in such a horrible planet with horrible things going on. It was never meant to be that way. So anyone that says, oh, well, Earth's just a school, we're here to learn lessons. Yeah, that's not what's been going on. But again, with all that coming up on Earth 1111, subscribe to my channel. If you guys haven't already, push that bell and hit the notification bell as well. Okay, so when we receive these massive amounts of energy, the reason why we have such massive ascension symptoms, and it seemed like it was like, flushing the swamp, which is all these artificial pockets that have been hidden. So when we see this massive amount of energy, it starts flushing through the grids. This is what I do all the time. This is why I take off sometimes and I'm offline, because I have to do so much Stargate work and grid work, because I am physically, my body, because I've embodied so many different dimensional levels as a gatekeeper. What happens is I feel like I'm freaking dying with the compaction happening within my physical body, because all of my chakras should be aligned perfectly. I should be a complete open field, right? So the higher levels, when you embody higher levels, you become an actual Stargate. So when these energies come in, I actually love when we have these high frequency energies. The problem is, though, what happens is it flushes a lot of the darker, lower consciousnesses. And so I think a lot of people think that negative beings, right, evil, demonic beings, or things like that, that just, with ascension, we're just vanishing into hell, some place called hell. Well, I don't know if you noticed, but the place called hell is called the planet right now. So what actually happens is when we receive these massive flushes of energy, it flushes a lot of these phantom pockets that have previously been hidden. And it brings that up to the surface. So those of us that have embodied the Stargates, a lot of the beings, which could be demonic beings, could be dark energies, it could be corrupted elemental energy, lost souls, like ghosts, like people that have been stuck in phantom pockets, as well as pieces of people's souls that are alive right now that have been, let's say, a piece of them has been lost. So in shamanism, we call this soul retrieval. It's a piece that is lost in the hyperfield, in a phantom pocket, that keeps you re-existing and living in trauma. And this is why people can't get ahead. This is why we loop in this consciousness, right? It seems like we try so hard to change our life, and there's always something pulling us back. And that's pieces of us, of your soul, that have been hijacked and harnessed into these artificial pockets because of past karma, from past lives, through our ancestry karma, through huge collective karma, like I said, Atlantis, times like that, Lemuria and other different times, ancient Egypt. All of these times were there was horrible things done. And so we can even think of just in recent times, all of the, even going on right now, all the people being slaughtered out there. Where does that consciousness go? When people die in those ways, their energy gets stuck in these phantom pockets. And only when we clear through that are these people or these soul parts. And like I said, even people that are alive right now, their soul parts are able to then be reintegrated, released from these phantom pockets, come back into the body. So you can have a piece of you that's been lost for eons. And you get that back, and you can then get back that piece of your soul, of your life force, of your power. So ascension isn't about pretending we're happy, right? There's way too many love zombies, I call them, out there, right? People that are scared to deal with the shadow. Well, guess what? The shadow, whether you want it or not, is coming back. And it's coming back in a big way right now, especially right now. We have so many things going on. I've been posting a few things on Instagram and TikTok talking about, so if you guys are already following me there, follow me on those platforms as well, because I have a lot more daily updates. It's just a lot easier to quickly do a reel than it is, a long YouTube video. But we are in a massive collective purging and healing right now. There's no more denying or ignoring the shadow parts. So if you're someone that, has been believing that, oh, we just pretend we're happy, whenever you feel something icky, okay, ignore that, push it down, and just, have some more loving thoughts. But that is not ascension at all. And in fact, when you do that, when you suppress those pieces of you that are literally being released for you to know that they're there to integrate. This is why, right, I hear people all the time talking about, I'm a good person. I try to have positive thoughts, and I'm being attacked by all these shadow beings and demonics, right? Psychic attack. Until you deal through your own individual karma, your ancestry karma, your childhood trauma, all these different things, those demons are actually your own internal shadow aspects, which appear as monsters, as demonics. When they come at you, they have been ignored. They have been pieces of you that you have hated, that you have ignored, that you have rejected, not wanted to deal with, right? Horrible things that have happened to us. So again, I'm not saying that these are parts of you that, that you deserve this or something, but we've all been through so many traumas, and we take on, so you got to realize too, we decide when we come into this lifetime we agree to take on the ancestry karmic imprint from all of our ancestry lines going back. And there's a lot of darkness. Let me just say, even think about just the things that we know about in history, how many horrible, horrible things were done. Your ancestors went through hell, many of them, right? Most lives were complete trauma, right? It was complete horrible lives that our ancestors had to live through. And this is just things that we know about in so-called history books, which we don't really necessarily believe any of that. But they're, things that we just know about. There was horrible traumas done, and we get to bring in that imprint, especially if you're someone that, right, if you're watching my videos, you are definitely an indigo soul, a star seed, an empath, light worker. All these things is really, you have a higher DNA imprint, and you come from, let's say, the future, which is really a point of zero time, where your DNA is built up and integrated, so you can come in with more of your God source energy embodied, so you can then be the one to clear those karmic patterns, whether it's addictions, whether it's traumas, abuse, anything that's been going on in your ancestry line. Of course, we have to deal with her childhood trauma. We have to deal with past life trauma. It goes on and on and on. And then when you're done with all that, then you get to deal with, like I do, collective Stargate grid trauma and karma, right? Because we have problems on every single level. This is not just an earth problem. There has been stargates in the universal level that have been blown up. So again, beyond the point of this video, I did talk about lots of this before. And I go into a lot more detail in my course. So if you guys are interested, I will be putting that in.
I want to say they've been blown up on purpose because when they went over there and did that 9/11 thing, that was to interrupt those stargates over there too, y'all. A lot of times when they attack these countries, it's to interrupt the spirits that's coming in and to interrupt the portals and stuff. They a trip, yeah. The what they call it, the deep state, and the powers that were, not be, but the powers that were. They do that because they follow these ancient texts. They look at these eclipses and these celestial bodies and these planets and alignments, and they know they can't control it, but they try to buy time by disrupting a lot of stuff and causing a lot of chaos and confusion.
Because I know a lot of people have been waiting for it to come on sale. So it'll be on sale. It'll only be, I'm actually gonna be taking it off the market in about 2 weeks, because I feel that I give so much information on there that I think it's almost too much, where people are right. I have hundreds of topics, everything to do with ascension, on the process, embodying more of your God consciousness. And I think a lot of people have the mentality that right, when they know something mentally, okay, they got it. But are you applying it? Are you integrating it? Are you becoming it? Are you taking action? So that's why I have decided I'm going to be taking my course off the market here in a couple of weeks, because I just think it's so much information and I want to go back to basics and really go deep on a lot of different parts of the course, but in a lot more depth. Because if I did that, I probably need about 10 or 20,000 lessons in my course if I went into depth on every single layer. So again, it's on sale. It'll be your last final time to purchase that. So you can find that on my website. I'll put the link below in the description. Okay, so you got to realize that ascension isn't about pretending we're happy or channeling being.
Yeah, I didn't even know she had a course, but she give a lot of good information that's free. A lot of good information. Telling you, it's understandable.
Or being psychic. Those are symptoms of the DNA activation process. But what happens is when we get these huge plasma waves coming in, like I said, when it starts draining a lot of the darkness, so a lot of the pieces of you that have previously you didn't even know they existed, it's like a veil within yourself. So what happens is it's clearing the grids in the outer macrocosm. The inner microcosm, which is your own internal energy fields, your own internal self, gets another veil open. So there's a part of you that you never even knew existed that was able to then come into consciousness activation. And this is why we feel that we have so much darkness, shadow coming up, right? These horrible things seem to be attacking us. Those are parts of you that you just have another veil opened up within yourself, another layer that we get to heal and integrate. So know that it's a massive time, especially right now. We just had the North Node, which is our purpose, aligning with Chiron, our biggest wound. And this is going to continue. So this is happening. And we will continue to have many different planets over the next couple months all move into this area in the sky. And so the zodiac is called Aries, which again, doesn't line up to the zodiac, or sorry, to the actual stars. But the whole point is we got to realize the zodiac is an imprint within our personality, within our lower levels of self. And if we don't clear that imprint, we can't move to higher levels to then start clearing collective grids, collective stargate patterns. So the Aries energy is all going to be about uncovering the true self. And you don't do that by running away from things you don't want to touch. These things are coming in, right? So the higher you go in frequency, the more darkness you seem to endure and see, because that darkness is coming to be integrated into you. You merge the light and the shadow into 0 point, and that is what ascension is. It's not about being happy and pretending everything's amazing and having happy thoughts. That's, like I said, I'm calling these love zombies, because they're going through completely moving into polarity, getting farther and further and further from 0 point, staying in the frequency of light or love, but they're ignoring what's festering inside their body. And that is the shadow, the parts of them that they have rejected. It's time to heal them. So when you get to clear all that, now you get to clear collective past civilizations and past traumas, collective, not just on the planet, but all the way, all the levels up. So we start clearing other star networks, dramas that have happened in places like Orion or Lyra, and all these different places in our multiverse where there has been massive evil or darkness or destruction in the grids. So if you think that, okay, I'm just going to, do my own trauma work and then I'm going to live happy, happy, joy, joy. Unfortunately, you're going to be realizing that there ends up becoming, when you unveil another piece of you, you are open to a higher level of more distortions to clear through. And that's how we then embody our true self, and not our false ego self, but the true, authentic God self. And that is what ascension is all about. So know that when you integrate those shadow aspects, those pieces of you that you don't want to look at, that are coming straight at you like an elastic, because as we clear these phantom pockets, we're released from these burdens, these karmas, and they will come back to you, right? Because another veil within yourself has been opened. And when you heal that, you get that gift, which is that piece of you that you previously did not have access to. So it is so important to not worry so much about the outside darkness, but I'm talking about go zero within yourself. What within your own life have you been ignoring? What within your own body have you been ignoring? What are all these things, right, that are coming at you, that are in your face, that you know what you need to do, but you just have been keeping busy, focusing on everything else, because the most important wound we try to avoid, like the plague. But like a plague, it will fester and get bigger and bigger and bigger until we choose to go zero in on that core issue in our life. Whether it's an issue in our relationships, an issue with our own ego self, an issue with finances, with health issues, with routines, addictions, anything. So you got to be the one to know that, to deal with it. So we're not ignoring the shadow. And this is what happens when we clear that. We will start rippling that energy of balance, and that will start clearing the fields for other people as well. So again, this is what I do all the time. I'm clearing grids, opening up these damaged areas, opening up the stargates more. So when we receive these massive solar flares, the solar flash, it can actually move through the grids freely instead of like that. And then we wonder why we're pretty much dying with ascension symptoms. So yeah. So when these energies came in, I was in complete knots. It was about 2 days of hell. And then we had, of course, the Super Bowl satanic, creepy stuff. Again, I don't watch that, but I heard about it. Again, that's just another layer of garbage that are trying to put more debris for us to clear. But that's really minor. We don't have to worry about that. That is literally a joke at this point compared to the real heavy stuff that we are burdened with, that we are clearing. So every time we receive these massive influxes, anything rigid that's been, blocking these phantom pockets from releasing will just start clearing. It starts clearing through a lot of these lower level dark places. So we're going to be seeing a lot more darkness festering out there in the world as this darkness is being cleared. So just know that it's going to be getting crazier, especially as the months are coming up. If you haven't seen my video on my 2024 predictions, check it out. And I will be talking, like I said, about the individual experience during 2024 coming up in a video here soon. Again, I wanted to post it, but unfortunately, the energies dictate when I can, pretty much die from, because the amount of pressure and my energy when I exist in the heart line, which is every single chakra has to be wide open in alignment. And when they're all completely cramming down, because when we receive these massive energies, any distortion in the field or in our bodies will get amplified, because that energy is pushing that distortion even down even more, until it's able to then break that up and start clearing. So this is why it takes a couple of days. It was dense. I couldn't breathe for 2 days. It was freaking hell. And a lot of people have been feeling a lot of rage, that primordial rage coming out finally, which is good because it's releasing. There's so many people living in a state of pretending to be happy, just checked out. They don't want to feel with what's inside them. And that, again, is the hijacking. You need to feel every single emotion and allow it to come through you. You need to exist from that piece of you that is angry, that has been traumatized or abused or anything. And you allow that to come, be expressed. That releases so much pressure in the field that those of us that transmute the hell for other people, we're sick of it. So if you're someone that does a lot of, or if you're someone that's an empath or that transmutes a lot of the darkness, we're sick of it. So I hear you. I'm with you. This is what I've been doing my whole life, clearing for other people that won't. And we got to start really releasing what's within us, or nothing's going to change in the world. So I want to tell you about a couple dreams that I had. So as a gatekeeper, when I'm awake, I'm always clearing distortions in my body, because I fully embody the dimensions and the stargates, which means they're not something up here separate anymore. They're always channels within myself, which I talk about many different times on this channel, talking about their twists or distortions, closed areas, wormholes I call them, or cords within my body. And there was a lot. Things were flying. Dark stuff was just flying out of the grids. It was chaos. And so when I'm awake, I'm always dealing with this. Sometimes, I have a couple days where it's a little more clear. There's a few distortions, but the past couple weeks and really the past couple months have been just non-stop work, and I'm exhausted. But the more that we clear, the more that we can live in a pure unified state without all of this extra chaos within our field. And I'm seeing a lot more of people that have been living in a state of, pretending to be happy, they're surprised that this anger is coming up within them. And that is something that they have suppressed their whole life, to be a good boy or girl, right? And the truth is your authentic self is all of these expressions. And if you ignore those, that is the problem. Then those of us, like I said, that have a huge job to transmute for this collective, we have been burdened with that heaviness our whole lives. And now I'm feeling like it's going to start getting clear, because there's going to be more people freaking out, but I actually kind of prefer that over people living in a docile, numbed out state, because then that energy is festering within them. I'd rather people freak out. I'm sorry, but that's just me. But anyways, I want to talk quickly about some of these crazy dreams I've been having. So when I sleep every single night, I'm doing gate work. I'm psychopumping. So again, when these energies come in, there's a lot of beings, like I said, corrupted elementals, trapped consciousnesses, sometimes demonics that come through my body. And if you're someone, like I said, that is a gatekeeper, that has all of your chakras lined up into a pillar, then right when you have completely merged into a Merkaba field, this isn't just activated within your light body, but you have recoded your physical to become a spiral. And you will know this because you will be a spiral, a hover car, right? This is permanent. Happened. So it started for me in 2017, where I began the process of psychopumping, which is allowing lower level, darker stuff to come through me, up level into higher spaces, higher dimensions. So it's really a process of draining the swamp to clear these darker pockets, to allow consciousnesses that have been trapped in these in-between states to start moving up into higher patterns, so they can start re-evolving. That's what Ascension's about, right? We're not banishing the bad ones over here to some place. That's just going to create another pocket of hell for us to clear, right? The unified field means every single morsel of the field needs to be flushed out, transmuted, integrated into the whole. So this is my job. It's 24/7. I would like to be like, okay, I'm just going to be human. No, unfortunately, that's not how it works. There's certain places you get to where there's no going back. And for me, again, it was 2017. Didn't even know what any of this stuff was. Didn't know there was no back button. And unfortunately, we're not really told that or shown that, because I believe that, right, our higher aspects know that your human self won't want to go, right, to take on the burden of a lot of this. And so we're not really, we don't really know the extent of what it means to embody God consciousness into the physical. You become a living stargate, an activator of everyone, and a transmuter 24/7. So when I sleep, I'm constantly doing stargate work, grid work. I am so normally I will have dreams. This is constant. I remember like every single one of my dreams pretty much like a movie. So I will constantly, this has been going on for years, be going up and down, a lot of times finding many people in like underground bunkers, or like almost like little tiny rooms. You will know this, where a lot of times when you find a soul, a piece of someone's soul, it's like a piece of you is just sitting there dormant, just waiting, trapped in these essentially almost like a hyperspace pocket, phantom pockets, unable to move, to go anywhere. They just sit there, almost like a little dormant state, right? And a piece of you could have been you, as I find, sometimes thousands of people just in this underground bunk, and I lead them up and up and up, and sometimes I'm going up and down, other times I'm taking trains or cars or planes, or it's always a process of moving through grids that are represented in my dreams as different things, right? And lots of showers, lots of peeing, lots of washing my hands, lots of swimming, so lots of, you can tell, cleansing. It's constant. This has been going on, like I said, for years. But I want to talk about some crazy dreams I had. So again, I believe the first one, so again, this was when I was really feeling the physical density of ascension symptoms after this first and second X-class solar flare. So that Saturday night, I had a dream. So this is the glamour that I get to experience sometimes as a gatekeeper. So I had this dream where I went into this outhouse. So I was kind of at this field area, almost like a grassland, and there seemed to be like an ocean or a lake I was near. Went into this outhouse, came out of the outhouse, and all of a sudden I was in a busy restaurant. And so before I came out of the outhouse, I was scraping the lid, the toilet rim, let's say, not the lid, the toilet rim, the inside of the rim with this like card thing. I was scraping this like hard black stuff from the inside of this toilet rim for like a while before I came out of this bathroom, and I was then in a busy restaurant. So then I went and sat at my table and apparently brought this toilet back with me, and I was continuing to scrape the inside of this toilet rim. And as I'm sitting at this restaurant, and it's like really busy, it's packed, and then all of a sudden I saw this police person, this cop, show up and start checking the bathroom I was just in, and then came out and was looking around and saw me, because meanwhile at this point I have the toilet at the table as I'm sitting here scraping this shit off literally the inside of this toilet. Again, it was like caked on black goo, right? And this cop looks at me and starts walking toward me, and I felt this like kind of fear that, ooh, I've been busted. And I woke up. But so you gotta realize these grids that have been distorted, that have been hijacked. So again, this to me was a parallel Earth grid, probably in Saskatchewan, because I felt like the sun was quite low, even though it was early. So I felt like I was way up north. And it's a grasslands area, a farming area. So there's a fourth dimensional parallel Earth Stargate there. So parallel Earth Stargates have mostly been dormant because they've been so hijacked, completely in chaos, these stargates. So parallel Earth stargates essentially spin counterclockwise compared to the clockwise ones of our stargates. So I felt like I was essentially busted by this cop that like busted me scraping the inside of this toilet. Anyways, I thought it was pretty funny. So then later that night, so again, that day was then the Super Bowl. That night, it was so dense. It was so much extra, like my energy was in complete knots, couldn't breathe, going through hell, had to flip out because I was like the point where I could not breathe. I was like, so I had this meltdown at one point. The energy was just terrible. This is Sunday night. Then that night I had a dream where lots was going on, but essentially I was apparently holding this retreat, and there were some people in the middle of this area, and I was walking around them in this path, doing laps around them, and I felt like I was there holding a retreat, but I wasn't essentially teaching anybody anything. I was kind of solidifying the grid where these people were in the center, anchoring, I think, or being activated. So that was kind of interesting. Like I said, there was more and more go on. But then the next night after that, I had this other dream. So again, I have lots of other dreams where I'm clearing people and doing all these other things. But my last dream that night, which would have been, again, now this is going on early Monday morning, I felt like, so I had this partner, which was Blue of Earth. You guys heard about her. I don't know much about her, but apparently she was my partner in the dream, and we were doing some stuff. And then all of a sudden, we were in a circle with maybe a couple dozen other people in this big circle, and someone that was kind of like in charge of this kind of like circle said, "Okay, actually, we're going to switch out one of the partners." And so then they said, okay, we're switching out Blue. Again, I don't know her personally, but I just have heard of her and seen a couple clips of hers. But yeah, so switching out partners. So now she was leaving my partner, and the new partner coming in that was switching out with her was this like gladiator woman. Like this chick was built. She was like 6'5". She was like, and like I was like, so in the dream I kind of joked, I was like, oh well, I hope, essentially what we're going to be doing next is going to be some type of strongman competition or something, because we're going to win or whatever. And it was interesting. Yeah, so that was my partner, and then I woke up. So essentially tapped out, switched partners, woke up, and that day I felt actually really good. I was spinning so much quicker. So my velocity of my Merkaba is like 1 billion times a second or whatever I spin at. I was spinning so quickly. I was feeling so happy. which is very few and far between at this point, because I feel like there's so much all the time, going through my body that I'm clearing, that I feel that I don't get to spin as fast as the velocity of my light body that I want. And I was, so again, this whole day I was feeling amazing. I was finally just felt this burden of this collective hell cleared. It was just a great day. That was again Tuesday. Now Tuesday night, so I laid down and right away started having these blockages. So again, you got to realize when you're vertical, you are clearing more vertical grids. When you lay down to go to sleep, this is why a lot of you can't sleep, because you lay down and your energy now starts clearing horizontal grids, which are very damaged, very blocked. And someone that has a lot of activation, you're going to feel when you try to sleep, it takes so long to even get tired because of so many distortions. So again, about that, actually, if you guys want me to do a video on sleep issues, I did one in the past. You can find it in my Ascension Symptom playlist. But if you wanted me to do another updated version about what types of things I do to help sleep, because I know it's been an issue for my life, my whole life, but there's.
So y'all can go to her page and get a lot of knowledge. That's why I'm giving it out, so you can go and because she go deep, and a lot of the stuff is free information, which is a blessing because excuse me, some people can't afford the classes and stuff like that. But I thought y'all needed to see this because you hear her talking about how in your sleep a lot of times you rescuing people when you're a gatekeeper or a Stargate. You rescuing people. I have had dreams where I was getting kids, rescuing them from some crazy places where they was in closets and stuff. And so I've experienced a lot of this stuff. So I know it ain't just, her up here talking. That's why I listen to stuff that my spirit and my soul and my inner self resonate with, not just, I know it's got to touch something where I know it's something that's done, not something I'm trying to experience, but something I've already experienced, and I'm, it's from within. That's what it got to resonate with me within, but not bringing out, when it bring out anger and make you hate people and stuff. That ain't the right energy you want to feel. Which we ain't gonna, like she said, be walking all in love. You're gonna be angry sometimes and tapping into them lower vibrations because you have to balance it out, but you don't want to just be in one mode. But now, you can go and look at it. You see, it's Earth 1111. Now I'm gonna bring up this other person. This gonna be the last one, and I'm gonna let that play out. Find it. This is gonna be the home run. This is good information. You're getting some Sunday evening, late Sunday, not too late, but soul food. And food for not just your soul, but your body and mind and stuff. It'll take you not just into next week, but it'll take you, is this it? It'll take you for a while. This will take you for a while here. And this is the guy that I've seen him before, but it's I saw him on whatchamacallit channel. I think he's been up there more than once, and maybe that was his first big time up there. What is it? D-Dale. Here we go. D-Dale 1. Here we go. Yeah. It's the Luciferian Great Reset. D-Dale 1014.
Be Frankie. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. I'm struck.
1 second. Uh, what happened? Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm back. All right. Okay. I'm trying to add him to my screen, but it looked like I'm in a different. Oh Lord. Did it take me off or something? Well, anyway. I'm trying to play this one out. I must don't want y'all to see this. Uh, I might just have to come back up here and play it. See? I'll come back up here, I guess. What am I doing? 5 seconds. Mm. Mhm. Already live. Okay. Doo, 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 doo. Okay. Mhm. This is wow.